Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Indeed Live. In case you missed our first episode, we are going to be joining you here week after week to connect directly about what's happening right now in our economy due to the COVID-19 crisis. We know that many of you have had your jobs impacted by COVID-19, and at Indeed, our mission is to help people get jobs, and that mission has never felt more important than it does right now. So we're going to be checking in with you this week, in the weeks to come, to answer your questions, to listen to your concerns, and to try to share real-time information on what is happening in the job market and around job search right now. So here's what we are going to cover today. I am going to talk about how to search for a job in this climate. I'm going to share some tips on going through the job interview process remotely, virtually. We'll talk about the current state of the job market, and I'll wrap up by pointing you to some additional Indeed resources and by answering some frequently asked questions. Before we do that, just a couple of things, a quick disclaimer before we get started. The information in this video is for informational purposes only. Indeed is not a career or legal advisor. Okay, so first, a little bit about me. Welcome back. If you were here last week, I introduced myself then. I'll do it again. I am Abbey Carlton, and I lead our social impact work at Indeed. So my team focuses on addressing bias and barriers in hiring globally through product innovation, strategic partnerships, and work in our communities. And we're just really glad to have you here with us today. Second, do not worry about taking notes. As you can see on our Facebook page, these videos will remain here. You can go back to them anytime. We'll also make these videos available on YouTube, so within the next day or so, you should be able to find this video there. You can go back and check in on anything that you want to listen to a second time. Third, feel free to ask questions as we go. Today, I'm going to be answering some of the questions that you asked us last week. Put your questions down in the comments. We're going to have our Indeed moderators going through, answering them during the live stream and after the live stream. And just like we did last week, we're going to take some of those frequently asked questions and answer them in next week's session. So we really want to hear from you. We want to know which questions are most important to you right now. Now, let's talk about why we are here. We all see in the news and we know from our own day-to-day experiences that this continues to be a really challenging time. If you are looking for a job, you know that that is not business as usual right now. And as we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, the job market has changed really significantly in just a matter of weeks. Many of us watching today have had our jobs impacted by COVID-19 in some way, and it's normal to feel concerned and unsure about what to do next. Indeed is here to help. And in particular, I wanted to start by sharing this week's product update. So each week, we'll be talking about updates that we are making to our products to make it a little bit easier for you to find a job right now. Last week, I talked about some of the updates we're making around job listings for remote work. And I gave you some tips about looking for a remote job. So if you missed that last week, and if that's something that's really interesting to you, go back, check out that video, and you can learn more. This week, we launched a new feature called Ready to Work. If you are someone who is available to work immediately due to COVID-19, you can now include this Ready to Work designation on your Indeed profile. So if you want to add this to your profile, here's what you do. If you go to Indeed.com and you look at the upper right-hand corner of the screen, if you're signed in, you'll see that person icon. Click on the person icon, and then you'll be able to click into your Indeed resume. When you do that, you're going to see a banner below your name that asks you if you want to add the hashtag Ready to Work designation to your resume. If you select that option, it's going to appear there at the top of your resume where it's going to be really easy for employers to find it. So that's our product update for this week. We encourage you to go check it out, Add ready to work if you think that's something that will be valuable to you in your job search, and we'll continue sharing more updates like this next week. So on that front, let's talk a little bit more about job search. Many of you have asked, how do you approach searching for a job during a time like this? Well, first things first, to start searching for and applying for jobs on Indeed, you need to make sure that you go in and either create or update your free Indeed profile. Once you've done that, you can browse for jobs based on your location right there in the what and where boxes on Indeed. If you are somebody who needs a job right now, we also have many employers who are actively and urgently hiring. Let me give you a couple examples from this week. So the USPS is hiring mail carriers, clerk assistants, distribution associates, and mail processing assistants. Walgreens is hiring customer service representatives, shift leaders, pharmacy technicians and pharmacists, assistant store managers, and beauty consultants. And Taco Bell is hiring shift leaders, restaurant managers, kitchen team members, and assistant general managers. So those are a few. If you want to see a fuller list of who else is urgently hiring this week at the national level, you can go check that out at the link below. Check in the comments. There's a link to a list of national employers who are urgently hiring right now. And in general, I would say that if you are looking to find work immediately, look into some of those essential services roles. Those are going to be the ones that are hiring the most quickly because demand is so high. After you have identified job opportunities, keep on applying to those jobs. And like we talked about last week, make sure that you are tailoring your resume and your cover letter to those specific opportunities that you're applying for. It's also a good idea to set up Indeed job alerts so you can be aware right away about new opportunities that are coming online. If you set up alerts, you can then start to receive notifications anytime there are new jobs, and you can control those in terms of the frequency and when you stop and start them. So those are a couple of tips around job search. If you have specific questions, again, please put them in the chat, let us know, and we can really go into more detail on any of the topics here that are most important to you. If you want to talk about the application process in greater detail, how to create a resume, how to better use filters to really tailor your job search, let us know and we'll come back with more on that in the upcoming weeks. Okay. And this brings me to our tip of the week. So as we all know, the job search piece is only one portion of the broader hiring process. And the whole process really feels different right now. It's not just job search. And many of you have asked, what can I expect after I apply for a job? What does it feel like to go through a hiring process right now? Some of you are concerned about whether employers can and will interview and onboard you during this time. And it makes sense to feel uncertain because this is new territory for all of us. But even with the constraints of social distancing, employers on Indeed are still interviewing and they are still hiring. The process might just look a little bit different. We are seeing a lot of employers who are choosing to conduct interviews virtually right now, even for essential services positions. And that brings me to our tip of the week, which is be prepared to be interviewed by phone or video chat. So I'll give you a couple of tips on how you can prepare. I would recommend that you dress for that interview as you would if you were interviewing in person. You can look online and try to get a sense of the company's culture, of their dress code. If you're unsure, business casual is usually a safe route to go. And you can also just reach out to the HR manager or to the HR department that you've been talking to and ask them about their company dress code. Another tip is to test your audio and video before the call. If you are someone who maybe you've never used video conferencing software before, I would recommend that well in advance of your interview, go online, download the software, play around with it, make sure you understand the features and that you just really get comfortable with it before that interview. If you can, ask a friend to do a test call with you, and that way you can work through some of those potential technical kinks ahead of time. Many of you may be doing these virtual interviews from home. And because you're doing that, it can be tempting to write down sort of a script for your answers so that you'll have exactly what you want to say in front of you when the question is asked. I would really encourage you to try not to do that. Instead, practice your answers ahead of time, become familiar and sort of comfortable with them in your mind, and maybe you can jot down just a couple of keywords or phrases that are going to help trigger what you want to say, but it's going to feel much more conversational and natural if you don't have a script in front of you. And finally, try to find a quiet space with minimal distractions. Again, this one can be tough right now where many of us are home. I am talking to you from home right now, and if you have family there, it can be difficult to find that quiet space. But as best you can, just try to arrange ahead of time with your housemates, with your family, so that you can have a couple of minutes of quiet, uninterrupted time for your interview. Beyond those remote tips, you can really prepare as you would for any regular interview that you would go on. And let me give you just a couple of specific interview prep tips. First, research your potential employer. Indeed company pages is a great place to start for that. If you haven't checked out company pages before, go to Indeed.com. If you look in the upper sort of left-hand side, you'll see a tab for company reviews. You can click on that, search for the name of the employer that you are going to be interviewing with, and that's going to take you to, in a lot of cases, a bunch of information about that employer. One of the things that you can find, for example, is commonly asked interview questions for that particular employer. So it's a great source of information as you're starting to do your homework. You can also check out the company's website, their social media posts, and recent press releases. Also, if you know anyone who works for that company, or maybe they work in the same industry, they can be a great source of information for you as well. Make it a point to understand the company's goals as you're doing this research, and that'll allow you during the interview to speak to the ways that you can really help support those goals in your new role. So a second interview tip, prepare questions to ask the interviewer. So often we think about being prepared for the questions that the interviewer is going to ask us, and that's a great thing to do. But many people often forget to do the reverse of that, which is to be ready with a couple of questions that you can ask the interviewer when they create that opportunity for you to do so. It is a great way to show your interest, to show your analytical capabilities, and just to show that you've done your homework. Let me share with you, here are a couple of questions that you might consider asking an interviewer in an interview. You could ask, how would you describe the characteristics of someone who would succeed in this role? What is the biggest challenge to success in this role? Or you might ask, how will my performance be measured? Remember, you are interviewing the company at the same time they are interviewing you. So you really want to think about which questions will help you decide if this role is the right fit for you. But I would say, with all of this, most of all, just use the interview as a chance to show your interviewer who you are and help them understand why you believe that you would be the best fit for that role. Okay, so we have talked about applying for jobs. We have talked about interviewing for jobs. Let's take a step back and look at the broader economic picture. Many of you are asking, how is COVID-19 impacting the job market? And to answer that question, I thought I would share a quote from another one of our Indeed economists, Daniel Culbertson. So Daniel says, there remains an incredible amount of uncertainty surrounding the COVID-19 crises, and this uncertainty extends to the economy. What little economic data we've seen so far has been dire. We know that in the 3 weeks ending April 4th, over 16 million workers filed for unemployment benefits in the United States. And in March, the unemployment rate climbed to 4.4%. While this unemployment rate is certainly out of date, as it only covers the middle of March, through the middle of March, the increase was still the largest month-over-month jump since the 1950s. These data are obviously troubling and unprecedented in all the wrong ways, but give economists a sense of just how fast the labor market is changing. So, One of the things that Daniel highlights here is that the data and the actual state of the labor market are not necessarily in sync right now. Things are changing so quickly that the data is likely to trail behind the actual economic situation until we have some level of stabilization in the market. This is, I think, one of those factors that is really making it difficult for us all to get the clear answers that we want right now. We're all figuring this out together as it develops, and we're going to be here each week to share updates and resources as we learn more. That being said, I think that this week's update from Daniel reveals some hard facts. We are experiencing a significant level of unemployment in the United States right now as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. And that has left many of us with big questions about our lives and our livelihoods. However this crisis has affected you, please know that you are not alone. Indeed is here to help. And to that end, I thought I would wrap up by answering a few more of your questions. And please, if you haven't already, do go ahead, put those questions down in the comments below. So one question that we got last week, someone asked, I lost my job in the food industry. This person was a pastry chef. How do I find another job? And obviously this depends on the specifics of what you are looking for in a new job, but assuming that you are looking for a new job right now, I would think about the skills that you have and how those might map to some of these open roles in essential services. Look into bakeries near you. Perhaps they're still doing takeout, delivery business and are looking for help. Another one you might think about as well is supermarkets. I mentioned that list of national employers who are urgently hiring. One of the employers on that list is the supermarket Food Lion. And they have positions listed. They are urgently looking for bakery managers. So that might be an area to explore, whether that's with Food Lion if they're local to you or with other supermarkets. We hope that helps. Next question, how do I find work from home jobs on Indeed? So we talked about this a little bit last week. This is an area where there is some good news. If we look at Indeed over the course of the last year, we have seen a steady increase in the number of jobs that have been posted as remote or work from home. And that has continued to increase over the last month as things have started to change so drastically in the labor market. If you want to find work from home jobs on Indeed, what you can do to narrow down your search is to enter in remote in that location bar, in that where bar when you go to Indeed.com. That way you're only going to see the listings that allow you to work from home. And remember that you can also filter by other categories that might be important to you as you're navigating your remote job search, things like part-time, full-time, experience level, and things along those lines. And also remember that employers can now indicate in their job posting whether a job is fully remote or whether it is temporarily remote due to COVID-19. That was actually the product update that I shared with you last week. This week, we talked about that ready for work designation that you can now add to your Indeed profile. And next week, we're going to come back with another update on how we continue to adapt our products to help people find jobs during this crisis. In the meantime, don't forget to check out our resource hub, www.indeed.com/here to help. That's indeed.com/here to help. You can find that in the description of this event. You can find it in the comments below. That is going to be a great resource for you to get more information on all the topics we talked about today and a range of other topics that will be relevant if you're looking for a job right now. And with that, that is it for today's live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you'll come back again next week. We are going to give you another update on what is happening in the job market. We will provide more job search advice based on the questions that you are asking us, and we will answer more of your questions. So we hope to see you soon.